should the impact of the digital era be on education? Throughout this key question, I will be discussing what the impact of the digital era is currently and should be on today's education, including its benefits and risks. Due to the argument as to whether we are currently in the digital era, there is clear evidence to suggest that this era is being experienced by today's generation in schools. Both teachers and pupils are able to use the technology which has been developed in order for this period in time, which is known as the digital era. This suggests that there has been and possibly will be even more of an impact on education through the uses of these digital devices. Technology has been introduced to educational environments, whether it is by the use of pupils in schools or educational professionals in universities. I will be evaluating the impact that the digital era has had on today's education, as well as my own thoughts on its use and whether I believe it should be continued to be interpreted into today's national curriculum. Professionals and students are able to seek both benefits and risks from the development of the digital era. Digital equipment such as computers and smartboards have been introduced to more schools over the recent years, especially with subjects such as ICT and maths. Seeing as computing programs of study have now been interpreted into the current national curriculum, teachers are beginning to use technology in classrooms more than ever. This may be through introducing their lesson objectives through an interactive whiteboard, or allowing their pupils to directly learn through computer programs. Although it seems simple for teachers to now interpret the digital era and technology into their work, each development required teachers to acquire technical knowledge and think about practice. This suggests that there may be a negative impact surrounding the digital era and its presence in education. Most teachers may not have had the opportunity to use equipment in schools such as smartboards and computers, and therefore may end up wasting valuable lesson time to try and understand their uses. Randomised controlled trials have been introduced to educational environments and professionals during the time of the rise of the digital era. They are used to analyse whether a policy is effective or not in an efficient manner. These work in a test, learn and adapt order. To begin, the educator must test a set of policies. They then must analyse all the outcomes that came from the trials in order to discover which worked best, which will then conclude in them adapting and applying this to the school policy. These trials usually test two control groups on a set of pupils. In terms of education, it could be between whole classes or just a group of separate pupils in smaller measures. It is always worth considering using a randomised controlled trial to test the effectiveness of the intervention before implementing it in the whole population. This suggests that randomised controlled trials are a strength towards the digital era's impact on education. We are able to identify the importance of policies in order to target set, change lesson planning, and the way that examined pieces of work are approached due to these trials which have been introduced in this area of discussion. Although randomised controlled trials are a part of what we would call the digital era and have proven to have a positive impact on education, there are still some risks which surround their use. For example, not all students are guaranteed to give permission to use their grades or attitudes to learning to be analysed. This could result in a lack of response to carry out the learning stage of randomised controlled trials, and therefore cannot be applied to which was the most effective policy. In addition, these trials are usually tested on large groups rather than individuals, suggesting a pupil's uniqueness is not acknowledged and applied to the results. On the other hand, there are still many benefits which I believe outweigh the risks. For instance, using these trials to determine the most effective policy also gives teachers the opportunity to improve areas of the policy that is believed to be the least effective. This meaning the results give educational professionals more of a choice of their preferred policy. To conclude, it is believed the digital era's development of randomised controlled trials have a more positive impact in the way of their use in education in the modern day. One benefit surrounding the impact of the digital era on education and its increase in the use of technology is the development of the Fisher Family Trust, which can be used to analyse data in schools. The Fisher Family Trust is an organisation which was created in 2001. This is an online system that is used by over 13,000 schools and other organisations and chains across England and Wales. Through this organisation, schools are able to work on the improvement of their performance. By doing so, they can use the Fisher Family Trust to analyse the data necessary. The data that this organisation allows schools to create is not only for internal use, but it's also published for government records and the public. This displays the importance of this development in the digital era and shows how much of a positive impact it is having on education. Before using technology to organise the school's data, it will be through manual filing system that would be less time efficient and may require hiring more staff in order to complete this job. With these online tools, educators are able to create files such as attendance reports and target setting files, using less time and resources as ever before. To conclude, I believe that the digital era has already had a major impact on education over the past few years, with the introduction of smartboards and the use of computers in subjects across the curriculum. I agree with the idea that it should be continued to be used and have an impact on education because of its uses in most jobs in the modern day. Developing and maintaining these technological skills from a young age, whilst we have the opportunity to, should not be seen as a bad thing, even if we do not end up using them in our jobs in the future.